with the 30 seconds thing.
Hi everyone, Adam Maxwell here, welcoming you to the inaugural episode of the Liberty Rising podcast. Today is Thursday, the 24th of November, 2023. To all our listeners in America, I wish you a joyous and festive Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Welcome to our show, where we dive deep into the heart of freedom and liberty, spanning topics and personalities pivotal to advancing this noble cause. For this special kickoff episode, we're honored to have Juan from Radical Thought joining us. Juan is a passionate advocate for the principles of Austrian economics and Anarcho-Capitalism. Today, we're going to be delving into Juan's journey towards libertarianism, what he's currently working on, and his unique economic philosophy. Most importantly, we'll be exploring his view regarding Javier Millei, Argentina's first anarcho-capitalist president. Allegedly, people are saying the first AnCap president, certainly the first of the 21st century. So welcome to the Liberty Rising podcast, where ideas of freedom and liberty come to life. Juan, we've come to know each other through the voluntarist, anarcho, free market Telegram apps.
A bunch of chats.
You've got a great group on there. Tell us a bit about yourself.
I mean, how do I describe myself that easily? I one thing that I like to start with is, yes, I'm passionate for the Austrian School of Economics. For me, the change that it has brought to me as a person, the change that it has me, personally, it's changed me. It has changed me to become a mature, serious person, to the extent that a lot of people, adults, not only familiars, of course, they see the change, but people that have known me, teachers or stuff, they see in me something different, and I have to thank it. Something, if it's something directly, it's to the libertarian movement, of course, the anarchy philosophy, and the Austrian School of Economics. If I have to thank teachers, I'll say Jesus Huerta de Soto above all. I'll say that that's the prime master. I think I have. He's alive for me, and he should be the point of focus for everyone that it's starting with this world. So yeah, that's basically me. Like I don't like to describe myself any further. I'm a radical libertarian, and besides that, you mentioned radical thought. That's an idea that actually is not mine. I won't say I stole it, but I like to think that I developed it from what I heard from a friend of mine. His name is Dan Tadman. Uh, for me, he's one of the biggest. He's an OG. He doesn't show up or nothing. You know what? Like he writes his stuff. He writes his books in his text. But with him, one day we were chatting, and this idea of talking radical. When you know that something is something, you don't need any beautiful words to explain it. You know how to explain it. So you don't need to. I don't like to talk in collectives. So, for example, we can go into debate and we can go further on this topic. This is something that I would like to investigate. I would like to know if I'm correct or if I'm wrong. Probably this is just complete madness of me. But for example, the word capitalism or socialism. Those are words that I don't say I don't agree or disagree. Is they are just words that I consider to be incorrect if you're using them into etymologic type of debate. For example, capitalism per se should mean capital. Why deism? Or for example, capitalism also implies free market. Why the capitalism? So that's some of the stuff that represents me. For me, I use the word libertarian. I use the word I, I really don't use the word anarcho-capitalist. I use the word radical libertarian of free market. And the word radical, it's true. It's the nucleus of my ideas. Why? Because being radical doesn't mean to be extreme. Being radical, first of all, means to be consistent, means to be coherent. It means that what you say, you mean it. So if you say that you are a radical anti-state, call it like that, if you are an anti-state, like you don't believe that the state should exist, or you believe that the state and its ways, its means, its methods, its systems, and the way that and the people that defend it are incorrect, well, you're an anti-state. It just depends on how radical you are or how hypocrite.
So,
That's
Juan,
how I define myself, a radical.
a radical libertarian. So,
Above all,
whereabouts in the world do you live? What do you do? And how come you? How have you come to? What's been your journey learning about libertarianism, learning
sure.
about politics, capitalism, economics, and around, which will lead up to your
Javier
understanding,
Millei.
your familiarity with Javier Millei.
Yes. So I'll address the questions one by one. I've always been a rebel. I've never managed to, you know, comply. uh, but the thing that got me into anarchy, first of all, is one of the first things that I remember is the fact that there was a graffiti. I think there is a graffiti around my neighborhood with the A. And I remember these class I had. I think it was third grade. No, no, no. It wasn't that far. It was probably seventh grade, sixth grade, eighth grade. So this teacher, I think I had the notebook somewhere. I have it right here. Yes, it's right here, right here. Yes, in that notebook, he's explaining us, for example, Hobbes, Thomas Hobbes, the Leviathan. He's explaining us John Locke. The Could you give me 1 second? Because I have my window open and it just started to rain. I don't know if you can hear it. Give me just 1 second. I'm really sorry to everyone.
No worries. Go ahead. Juan touched upon capitalism. Now, what is capitalism? Capitalism is simply private ownership of the means of production of capital. Capital is land, labor. Again, Juan?
I could argue that.
Land,
Because
labor, capital, and enterprise, like
I could
machinery.
argue that. I could argue that. I completely could argue that. That's where I'm going. And that's where I have like when we go to define words further and further, there's two quotes that I like to mention. We have the problem of not being able of understand when to stop and understanding that there's a point when you as a person have too much knowledge to actually know what you know. So that's the problem of me when everyone is starting to create all these words of isms and ists to
Look,
sound politicized.
well,
But we can
the
go.
word the word
Yes, go on.
capitalism actually came out of Karl Marx. I think he's the one that invented it, or at the
Sure,
very least popularized it.
but
And
you could argue that, but you could also argue that words are an institution of humans that they develop with us. So yes, right now table is stable, but table is stable in English, right? The sound of table in English is the one we understand because we're familiarized with the sound. It's like a kid. You don't need to know the meaning of table. I'll ask you. Is there a meaning in a dictionary of table? It
Yes.
is. What is it? You don't need to know it. You know what's a table, right? If I ask you what's a table, the first thing that's gonna come into your brain is an image of a table, four legs,
Well, so
flat
there's
space above.
if you want to
Yeah,
talk about definitions, you have you have that dictionary definition, but you also have something known as a schema, and
but
a schema
that's
is
exactly where I'm trying to what I'm trying to avoid.
you
The
have
the
a
fact that
blueprint of that concept in your mind, and you have an image, you have a description, and you have connotations associated with
yes,
that.
and
So,
capitalism is a process, or is it what? It's a list of some of things that imply, right? That's
also,
one of
so
the main.
I'm saying capitalism is at minimum the private ownership of the means of capital, and
It
what we have
represents
now.
that. It represents that, but if you think about it, capitalism or capit comes from the word caput. It means brain in Latin. It's a it's a concept. Capit the concept of capital. It's uh, a not an imaginary concept, but a brain concept. Where, for example, where you have let's say this cable, this USB cable, you can use it only if you have a free market system. You can price this object, this good that you have, at the price of the market, but only if the market is working freely is when you can actually price it correctly. That's the capital. The process of you and society as a whole pricing goods and services as the market is doing it freely in its didactic way. I would like you to imagine it if you can. It's super complex, but yes, that's capitalism. The process of caput, you in your brain with your capit, yes, working out this the value of your goods, brainly, brainly. It's not necessarily materialistic. In fact, it shouldn't be. The only materialistic part of it is the good, and the good could be valued. For of course, it could be valued. For example, this is why I love Jesus Huerta de Soto. Jesus Huerta de Soto, he develops his economical theory and his thesis directly from Mises. It's an, for example, you have Mises, and the people that study the the um, the human action, not catalactics exactly, the human action praxeology. Those are Mises, Israel Kirchner. You ask me, Israel Kirchner and Jesus Huerta de Soto. Those ones are the ones that I know. Of course, there are more. Probably you can say, not right now, I forgot, but it's he specializes in jurisprudence, so I won't say especially in praxeology. Praxeology would be, for example, entrepreneurship and human behavior. I think that's the name of the book. That's from Israel Kirchner. That's one of the most important books in on understanding entrepreneurship in that sense. Uh, to the point where I'm going. Capitalism, for example, this is the point that Jesus Huerta Soto defends. The word capitalism as a whole, it's behind the idea that the human creates capital, but only in the free market. But the thing that I implied then there is the next one. In order for humans, I needed to turn this thing out. It was breaking my eyes. In order to humans to create capital, in order for them to value, for example, this case for my glasses, you know, there's more specific examples, of course, but in order to value it, to price it, to market terms, the market needs to be free. If not, there's no capital. Listen to my words. If not, there's no capital. What means that if we need, if capital is to be exist, is to exist, freedom is the base. Liberty, not capital. Capital, capital will exist, but only, and only if the market is free. That's when I not that's one of the arguments I have, because there's the linguistic and the semantic one. This is in Spanish makes more sense. In Spanish makes more sense than in English. And I won't go around and mess around with that, because we will start talking about philology and linguistics. But the point is, there is no definition in the word ism. Like in the suffix, I don't know how do you say it in English exactly, but in that add-on, you have the word in Spanish is called sufijo. I think it's suffix in English. I've something like that. But yes, the thing is, that thing doesn't have a proper definition. I don't remember the author. I went into a whole the black hole, in a rabbit hole, going down and down and down into this topic, just because I wanted to prove myself if I was going crazy. Probably. But the point and the conclusion that I went is, like, etymologically, damn, etymologically talking, it's a storm right now, man. Like, I had sun 5 minutes ago, and now we have a storm, and it scares out of me. Uh, this etymologic stuff that I'm making out doesn't make any sense linguistically, but etymologically it does. If you want to talk about a thing or an idea, talk about ideology. Freedom shouldn't be defined as liberalism or libertarianism. The movement should be called libertarian movement. It's clear. It goes to the root. And what is being libertarian? Is being opposite to authoritarian. Like, it's in the words. So I went into that rabbit hole there. The word, the sufism, whatever it is, it just,
Voluntarism.
no, the ism per se. It doesn't have any proper meaning. For example, I give you another example. There's no taxes in English. There's no, because it makes no sense. The word tax is for taxing out money, right? There's a word in Spanish, taxista. That's the driver of a taxi. It is a collective of all the people that drive a taxi. It doesn't. It does not refer to a simple person, an individual. It is not Carlos. It is not Mr. Abdullah in New York. No, no, no. It's the collective of taxists. But in English, it makes no sense. This is my point. In Spanish, this argument tends to have more sense, because there's this type of words in Spanish. If you actually make the research in Spanish, there's way more words that just end up in ists or ism, and it starts magically when we see the beginning of
So,
collectivist or the collective type of ideology. Yes,
so at
Bakunin,
the roots,
Hegel, Marx. Yes,
so
the thing that I defend personally, I will not go further with this topic, because I think that this has to be studied further and will take years. Probably I'll have to meet up with person that people is expert. But personally, I don't use the word capitalism, neither socialism or voluntarism. I use the word will. I use the
okay.
word free market. I use the
So,
word liberty or freedom per se. And if not, authority, state, government. I try to go to the radicals, the roots of the words, to maintain consistency, coherency, and stay straight.
so at the root of free market capitalism, you say is liberty. It's
Yes,
freedom, and it's specifically
yes,
radical freedom. It's
yes.
a it's an ideology or a system of
They are absolute.
individualism.
They are absolutes.
On the
If
other end of the spectrum, and what this is in
yes,
contrast to, is authoritarianism, is collectivism,
authoritarian thought.
is
Yes,
government,
yes.
is one group or class or regime of people or otherwise an organization that claim
Systems,
ownership over
ideas.
another.
That's why I don't like the ism,
So
because you
you've
can
got
name them. For example, if you want to talk about the authoritarian movement, or the authoritarian type of thought, you can talk, for example, about Carl Smith. You can talk about Duce. You can talk about, there was these. I'm going to go to law. I'm going to touch the law school. There was this. I'm going to turn this off also because I just noticed that this is affecting the lighting, the lights here. Yes, it was. Um, the Thibaut was his name. He had a debate with the teacher of law of Karl Marx. Imagine that. The teacher of law of Karl Marx defended this idea. Law is something that develops from the exchanges between people in the community, like
Law is
prices.
law
Law
is
is a price. It's a
it's a
price.
field of
It's
ethics
an
that focuses on
it's
conflicts.
no law. It's a code of call it a code of ethics if you want. It's a code of
It, a
it's a code of
field,
behavior.
a
It's a
field of
code of
ethics.
behavior. A
Yeah.
code of behavior, or if you want in Greek, there's this word bole. It's not like I don't work like for example the word law. It is too universal. So when we talk about things like law, I like gravity to be a law. I like other stuff to be law. I like the law of marginal value. You know, that's an economic law, universal law. It is objective everywhere. It doesn't matter as long as you act, as long as you are part of a praxeological environment realm. Call it.
Mhm.
You are bound to these laws. One of them is the marginal value law. You know, the decrease in marginal value law. Gravity is one of those other laws. So when we talk about laws being made even by human behavior or a community transactionating freely in these non-controlled decentralized system as I imagine it, I don't see it as a law. I see it as a habit of the community. This is what Greeks in ancient Athens, not properly Sparti, um, they named Bole. It was a habit that will rule us or that will stay with us into an undefined time. It's super complex. And if you go to Athens and you study the way that they worked out their government system, there's thousands upon thousands of boles wrapped into rocks. Why? Because habits change all the time. And the government system that at least Athens had was far way more efficient than ours. That every time a new habit, a new way of no yeah no a habit, that's the way, a habit changed in the community, they made the assembly and they, I won't talk about the Athenian government right now, but and they changed they changed the ways things worked. Thibaut and this guy Thibaut and what's I just forgot his name. Thibaut and Savigny was the teacher of law of Marx. They had this argument. Savigny told Thibaut, look, you and Napoleon can fuck off. You want to create a German code of law. You can't create a German code of law by the grace of the state and his signal. Can't do that. You can't. That's one of the failures of Napoleon. Napoleon made this constitution. He even changed he painted reason, human reason, as if it was godlike reason. When yes, humans are reasoning beings. Yes, we reason, of course, but and we are rational beings, but we are not godlike rational. Even though I don't think that's being rational, we are rational in a way, in a sense that we can't control our rational beings. Yes, we have developed, as Jesus Huerta de Soto, for example, likes to say it, we have developed the essence of God. We can create, you know, keyboard, my glasses. We can create. We create information in the other one when he doesn't know it, or he knows it in a way. It's like a computer. In law, he basically said it's the same way. It's the same way. You can't create law the way that you're doing it. He had his ideas that we need to have a government, and the best ones have to be the ones who govern. If not, the ridiculous people of the plague are going to be the ones who govern, and no, they are too stupid. He had this arrogance, and but this is the classical philosopher arrogance. Socrates and Plato had him. Everyone, uh, John Locke, Rousseau. Yeah, well, he believed that law was some type of institution, the same type of institution that Karl Menger is saying, the same institution that we see on prices, money, language, and stuff like that. One thing that you were mentioning, capitalism is a word that was
Popularized at the least,
popularized,
if
or
not
at the very least, or yeah,
produced through
well, if you want
Marx's.
to say car to through the Marxian school, yes, I'll say directly. I'll go to, not what was his name, not von Bauer, is Werner Sombart. Werner Sombart is the name of the. You can. It's in German. If you want, I can write it down. It's Werner
Werner
Som.
Sombart.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I see
Werner
him.
Sombart. He wrote. He was part of what is called the history, uh, economy, um,
He's a
uh,
German historical
school,
economist.
historical school of economy. Call it like that. For giving it the amplitude, and I'll give you the explanation of this historic school of economy. They have an idea, and they exist. There's people, they don't exist as they existed in that time, but they exist right now. There's people right now that believe that historical economy will prove us future events. That's proven to be wrong, may historically, but theoretically too. To the point, Sombart um, basically gave foundations to the materialistic philosophy over time of Marx. That um, the materialist, materialist stuff gained value. How to explain it? Um, Gain value not through time, but through the the time that people have been um, using it. So, for example, a chair doesn't have value because the cost of crafting it, the materials, the transactions behind it. No, it has cost because socially it has it. You know, it has developed socially a materialistic value for society. So, Sombart tries to develop this stuff, and in one of his books, he presents us the word capitalism. And I guess you can, if you can, I don't remember word on word the definition he has, but it is a definition that Marxians, and right away today, right now, it would be perfect. Like for these people, it will be perfect for them. This type of definition, because yes, it implies plusvalia, or what's plusvalia in Spanish, but it implies the robbery of the proletarian throughout the entrepreneur, or the capitalist, the boss. It implies it. His definition is complete, and it has been the definition that post-Marxians, uh, neo-Marxians, I don't know, Foucault, everyone at the very end has some kind of pair. If you can say, do you have the definition right there? And if you don't have it,
I no,
no, if
I
you
don't.
have
If
it,
you want.
I can look forward. I mean, it's not that important. The fact is, he was the one who put definition to the word capitalism as a whole in terms of ideology. That's the other part. For example, Jesus Huerta de Soto, in the word of capitalism, defends the part of capitalism being not being an ideology, but defending a process. The process of people being free to 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 price their goods, their services, and their own work, their own job, their own beings to market value. That's being called a capitalist. again, that's the only argument that I do is that I like to call myself not a capitalist but an entrepreneur or a free market defendant or a radical libertarian. Yes, that's basically my point of view on those words. That's why I don't want to stay focused on it, because it's a linguistic thing, and it could be argued in English, it could be argued in Spanish, hell, it could be argued in German, but I don't know how to speak German, so yes.
Thank you. There was a very deep dive into
Yeah.
semantics of and the root, as you say, the radical of libertarianism, economics, free markets,
Yes.
etc. Now, Javier Millei, who is the president-elect of Argentina, he is a renowned economist. He's published over 50 books. His expertise is in
Yes.
macroeconomics, economics, microeconomics, political philosophy, and specifically, he advocates for the Austrian school of economics.
Yes.
Anarcho-capitalism is how he's branded himself, or perhaps minarchism, which is minimal state intervention, as
Yes.
opposed to anarcho-capitalism, which tends to be the abolition of the state in its entirety.
Yes.
As a free market advocate, as someone who is against the government, who is against collectivization, who is against state institutions, he has
Yes.
promised to come into Argentina, which has experienced a load of problems, due to, in part, large part, due to its socialist governance models in the past. And he is threatening or promising revolution to Argentina. Now, this is going to be a radical experiment. We don't know
Exactly.
how aligned Milei is going to be to his rhetoric. He's talked a big game. Now's the hard part. Let's see how he goes. We
Yes.
don't know to how far he's going to align to what he's promised. We don't know how well those policies are going to plan out, both in the short term and the long term. Because one thing that economists recognize is there is both the immediate, the seen impact, and the after, the unseen impact. That which is seen and unseen is
Mm.
a great essay by Frederic Bastiat covering this very
Yes.
eloquently. One of my favorite essays in economics. So with Milei,
Totally.
he has said, Argentina, we are setting up with his election, we are setting Argentina up for prosperity over the next 35 years.
Yes.
Now, I am unfamiliar with Milei. I've been following some of the libertarian memes and stories about his rise and about his election, and we've been celebrating this anarcho-capitalist president.
Yes.
However, do not live in Argentina. I do not live in Latin America. I have no
Yes.
idea about the policies, about the history, about the governance. So why don't, before we jump into Javier Millei, do you want to give us just a brief, 2-3 minute history about the economic and political situation of Argentina, and then jump into Millei?
I have to laugh. I have to laugh because in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, that don't fit. I'll just breathe it up. Argentina is completely screwed. Like, up to down. I could give you examples. Let's go to Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner. So that's one of the persons that every time that I mention her name, I'm gonna be respectful here for the audience and for professionality. But that's a person that I, at the very very least, I despise.
Okay,
But I
can you give
despise a
us?
lot.
Can you give
And
a
I'm gonna give you an example
general?
of how screwed. No, I'm gonna give you an example of how screwed and how corrupted these people are. There was. I'm not really sure anymore. There was an hotel up in the mountains. I don't remember the name. Owned by Kirchner, by Cristina. He used to cash out with that in that hotel. Probably I don't remember if it was weekly or daily. To the fact, thousands thousands of dollars. Not one person inside. Not one person inside of the hotel. Everybody knew. You could knew how, like if you researched it, how corrupted is Argentina? You will have get this hotel. She used to launder there, $150,000,
And
one
who
hundred
is
fifty
this
thousand
person?
k.
Is she a government?
Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot to present Cristina Fernandez. I thought everybody knew her. She is the vice president of the last government of Argentina. Alberto Fernandez was the president. Most importantly, she was the vice president of the government of the 2004 to 2008. That was Nestor Kirchner, husband of Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, and she also was president of Argentina during five years. I don't quite remember. It was between 2007 to 2012. Why? Husband died. Husband died during mandate. We don't know why. Probably the witch killed him. People don't know. I'm just making. I mean, look, you can make all types of stuff with Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner. She has killed people. I'm glad I don't live in Argentina. I'm far and I can make my conjectures. You know, she stole thousands and thousands. Like there's this other example. Like this, the hotel is one. She used to land there 150,000. I remember this name, 150,000 per week or per day, and that hotel was empty completely. She was the president of that country. Okay, point one. Point two. During governments of Kirchner and also Alberto Fernandez, especially Kirchner government, there was this driver, limousine driver. She used to drive these bags, these people that used to drive bags, 2 3 bags, full with dollars, full with cash. He wrote down and recorded every single one of the names she heard, every single dime she looked, every single address she had to deliver people, even when she had to face because she worked for someone. Imagine who? Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, vice president of the last government of Argentina, ex-president of Argentina, and ex-president of Argentina, and she has been minister, governor. She has been mayor. She has. I know she like I know her background to an extent. I don't remember every single name and how much she has robbed, and, but she has robbed a lot. To the point, she robbed above during that limousine trip above $1 billion. Split it. Yeah, hear me
Wow.
out. $1 billion is split it between 13 to 14 governor members. That's Argentina. As
And
simple as that.
that's allowed to occur because of the government and because of the socialism.
Argentina has a background that could go down 100 years. Sadly, Argentina was the richest country in the world to an extent. A
At
century
one
ago,
point,
100 years ago. Right now, it should be the second country in the world behind the United States, but it has an explanation. Some people blame Peron directly, Peronism and the Doctrina Peronista. I could go straight forward to explain who is Peron and explain the doctrine. Like people in Argentina, like if you think that the United States is no, the United States, what? If Venezuela, no, my country. Look, there's books in Argentina, and I don't live in Argentina. I just know this because I have friends. I've researched these because I got interested in Argentina so much because it is complex. There's something there that charms you up. You know what I mean? There's books for children in Argentina. One of the first words kids have to learn in Argentina, it's Perón, Eva Perón, Juan Domingo Perón, and they have these books where they have this picture of Juan Domingo and Eva, and they have this EVAPERO, the tilde or the thing that we put on the O in the end. That's Argentina. For kids, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years old kids. That's for them learning how to write, how to differentiate letters. That's one part of it. So Argentina has a background of probably 50, 60, 70 years where these indoctrination made up specifically by Peron, but that just Peron wasn't the main one. Peron
So,
came just at the moment. Peron imposed his measures and his means right when right when everyone else was doing the same stupid dumb stuff. Like Argentina was crumbling apart. I think the government was 1915 when this new government started in Argentina. I don't remember the name. You will have to forgive me there. But I will give you who made Argentina great during those times. It was specifically 1884 when Alberdi, Minister of Economy and Education, proposed this reform. Low taxes, man. Uh, federal style of government. And less few ministers, no central banking, gold and silver pattern, man. He was he has been in Latin America the till now, of course, till now. He has been the only liberal figure that has actually done liberal measures, political measures, monetary measures in Latin America, and that was not last century, last century. Alberti, 1884. Listen to me, 1884. 5 to 10 years, Argentina was the richest country in the world. That was 1895. You can check charts. You can check data. I'm not fucking around. Argentina by 1900 was the richest country in the world. That was because of Alberti. And why? Low taxes, low intervention, small state. Yes, sir. Freedom, free market. What fucked
thank
it
you.
up was the president in 1915 to 1938. Perón made a strike, a state strike, 2 times, and imposed la doctrina peronista. That stuff, it's like mixing up Nazi Germany, Facci Italia, and having up a retarded kid. Yeah, no, I have to
Um,
say it like
w-
that. And that's what you get, Argentina.
one of the biggest uh, free market individuals, anarcho-capitalists, they argue against the state because they say fundamentally it's illegitimate, it's immoral,
Yeah,
taxation is theft, it is a form of subjugation without the consent of people. It is entirely illegitimate. It is essentially slavery. It does not conform to natural laws. However, there are many people that say, for example, Claire writes that Millet has to start somewhere.
yes.
There are many people that
I'm
say
reading for you.
government is a necessary evil. And because it's a necessary evil, they say, I am not an anarchist. I am perhaps instead a minarchist, meaning instead of for the destruction or the abolition of the state, therefore keeping the state to a minimum. Now, the United States was established under this doctrine of a minarchist state, where we have governance, we have states, there is maybe a federal state, but the role of government is to remain limited. And as we can
Yes.
see today, the United States government is one of the most powerful entities in the world.
And far
So
away, it's one of the most expanded states. Continue, please.
it is in the nature of governments to continue
And
expanding, to
yes,
uh, a power granted to a government for an emergency means almost every time means that either the power or the emergency will last forever, or for as long
yes,
as they can hold on to it. So what tends to happen is the state, and especially the state apparatus, which I call the blob because it just grows and
the
it's a
blob.
faceless mess of bureaucrats. This blob grows and grows and consumes and distorts and subverts and steals and plunders from the state, from the country, from the people until revolution. So Jefferson is very very clear that the liberty, that the tree of liberty must be refreshed with the blood of tyrants. So government grows until there's a revolution. Millei markets himself as an anarcho-capitalist.
Yes, I
However,
was going to mention that.
as our commenter here, Gabriella, says that he
Yes.
used, she alleges that he used to call himself an anarcho-capitalist until he got into politics. Now that he is the president-elect of Argentina, how can a president be an anarchist? So Gabriella here says that it's contradictory. Claire also offers that although that there may be this inherent contradiction, you've got to start somewhere. Let's be pragmatic here. Let's not be utopian.
Yes.
If he's going to come in and cut the state by 90%, which is what he's saying, then this is certainly a good thing.
Damn, I want to address Milei for a second. I met Milei in YouTube. You know, this is one of those miracles. It got recommended in the feed. And I don't know if it was what was his name? There was this channel in Argentina. I don't really remember, but in Argentina, politics are everywhere. When you live in this country where you have a doctrina peronista, when one of the leaders or presidents of the country is taught on the school for you to learn basic letters and basic writing, man, you need to understand this is a country where politics is on the plate. You eat breakfast, and you have here inflation, economy, deficit. Damn, and that's your breakfast. And I'm not kidding. You can ask an Argentinian. That's every day, everywhere, every time. Those days, and right now, Argentina is more politicized than ever. More because of the inflation problem that they have. This has been forever. The inflation problem of Argentina. Argentina has had two hyperinflations without war. Without spending all the money that the United States has spent on war deficits and all. So in this context, I got to know Milei. 2019, Argentina was facing other inflation problem, other deficit, and we were also facing some economic turbulences in the world. I won't address the repo market in the United States. I don't want to address the bond market in the United States. I don't want to address the recession that was building up in the United States and the fact that interest rates in the United States were dropping down. We don't know why. Well, in that context, I got to know Milei. I loved the way he spoke. I just ignored it. The moment I actually put attention to him was during the pandemic, when he actually started speaking about governments screwed it up. They put us inside cages, inside our houses for all these moments, and they had screwed the economy. They had printed all this money. I got introduced to inflation at that very moment. He talked about a word I didn't even know, inflation. He talked about inflation. He mentioned it. And I was like, inflation. I went to inflation, okay. But he defined it in a different way, where the way you see it in Wikipedia. He mentioned deficit, taxes, cutting, Austrian School of Economics, hell, libertarian movement, anarcho-capitalism. He mentioned everything in one interview. Everything in one interview. I would like to know where's their interview, but that's to the fact. I got in love. The way he screamed, I instantly clicked another interview. This was with another person. He was screaming towards him. You lie, you Keynesians motherfuckers. And he was like that. He was swearing and everything. And the presenter of the TV program had to calm him down, had to went to Javier, cálmate. I remember vividly watching those videos. Javier Millei is not like that anymore. He used to be really, real extreme. Yes, he calls leftist shit. That's propaganda. I could do that. And if I appear in TV and if I'm making politics and if I'm making the correct propaganda and I have the money, people will say I'm basic. But and that's facts. People will say I'm basic, but right now Milei is not like that. And he used to define himself on television. I am an anarcho-capitalist. I am a radical libertarian. I don't believe in the state. I don't believe in taxes. I don't believe in government. I don't believe in ministers. I don't believe that the way to do things is controlling people towards decentralized way. And I believe that these, and that. And he used to defend, for example, gold pattern. He used to defend the gold standard. The gold standard. He used to defend the silver standard. He used to say. He used to even talk about crypto. He doesn't talk about that anymore. The point. I met Milei in that context. I got in love with him. I used to drink coffee in the mornings with Milei saying, miren, lo que toca hacer es bajar los impuestos, sí, y los socialistas de mierda, sí, y sí, con ese sí de Milei, with that, yeah, sí, el sí de Milei, it's very classic, and it got with me. But when he got into the Senate of Argentina, I did like this. I say, hey, hold up. 8 months ago, 10 months ago, when I met you, you were speaking another language. Now, your language has went softer. If not softer, it has now. It sounds normal. It sounds exactly the same way that Fox News sounds. The same exact way that MAGA Trump fans, Trump followers sound. If you ask me now, before 8 months ago, 10 months ago, I didn't know a thing about Austrian School of Economics. I didn't know who Frederick Bastiat, Gustav de Molinari, hell, ouch, Max Stirner. I didn't know who was Mises, who was Rothbard. I didn't know all those names. But now that I know them, now that I have read, now that I've researched your stuff, you don't sound so anarcho-capitalist, so libertarian. Your narrative has changed.
Puta, tiemblen. La libertad avanza. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo! ¡Vamos!
Yeah, that was Javier Millei. That emotion, that energy is still there. That's why he's so attractive, because he has full of energy. But there was one time with Javier Millei where the message was not making Argentina a potency, an international potency, or make Argentina rich, or make Argentina again the Argentina it was with Alberti. Once with Javier Millei, it was about freedom, about free market, about decentralizing, about living in anarchy, about living without an state. And that has changed completely. That has changed completely. In fact, the point I'm trying to make is that when I learned about Javier Millei, I didn't only learn about Javier Millei. I learned about the other part of Javier Millei. Javier Millei, when I learned about him, he was publishing his book Pandenomics, where he explains that the pandemic was badly administrated. That in order to control a virus like this one, what we would have had to make was, yes, not quarantines, but testing. For example, governments expended deficits. Like Javier Millei made this argument. Look, you people have expended deficits and deficits and deficits. I'm not going to talk about taxes. I'm not going to talk about inflation. I'm going to talk about this. You want to spend money? Spend it correctly. So do this. Spend your money on buying tests for COVID. You buy 100,000 tests for COVID, and you know that there are 10 people infected, bro, you're ready. A million times ready. You are already taking 100,000 tests daily when you know that there are only 10 people around that have the virus. The outcome, you control the virus and you don't have to close down the whole economy. Please, forward that video.
¡Puta de su madre! ¡Hijos de puta! ¡Chorros!
That was Javier Millei. Javier Millei used to not be like. I would like to see Javier Millei in if the government right now. Probably we will. Ojo, probably I'm speaking Spanish and crossing words. Probably we will Javier Milei as a president. I don't think he will show this type of unprofessionality because he's a politician. He's not he's not an activist or a type of guy that is here an amateur like me. He's on the government and he's not going to start screaming, look, you bunch of rats, when he in fact is in the same room, living out of the same. He also has renounced to the pocket of the politician, right? He said that when he jumped to the Senate, he said that he was going to renounce to all this money that the politicians in Argentina, they win a hell amount of money. I like the only rich people in Argentina are politicians, gangsters, or rappers, and not even rappers or singers or whatnot. Politicians, straight, straight politicians. He renounced to that check, but he has 20 assistants behind him, right? He has a whole.
He's a
He's a
he's a
politician.
he's a politician. He's a head of state. Before he was the challenger, he was of the people. He was this radical anarcho-capitalist. That was how he was marketing himself.
Yes.
And
And he
and
changed to minarchist, as everybody knows. There's an interview where he says explicitly, it's in YouTube. He says explicitly, I am an anarcho-capitalist, but I am a minarchist by now. I would like to translate it explicitly. Él dice al paso, de paso. It's like saying I'm a minarchist, but just because it's raining. You know what I mean? Like
it's
the
a
umbrella.
pragmatic approach.
It's he says it's pragmatic. It could be pragmatic, but it depends on the ends you're trying to achieve. You know, I like to be entrepreneurship. I like to quote entrepreneurship here, Mises theory. Mises, the basic foundations of our Austrian Economic School. We have ends, we have value, we have means, and we have utility. How useful are these means that you are trying to use in order to achieve these ends? What is the end that Javier Milei is trying to achieve? Is anarchy? Is it really? If it is, some people will argue, me specifically, I'll represent myself, yes, as an anarcho-capitalist, but to the end. Right now, I represent myself as an agorist. I won't talk about Samuel Edward Konkin or Timothy May or the counter economy approach of Austrian School of Economics. But it was Samuel Edward Konkin III, the one who created or proposed the word minarchism or minarchist. And it was not, to throw roses to it. It was to say it is the most inconsistent and contradictory thing that we have ever invented. Why? First of all, government, if it's an evil, it's not necessarily. It's not necessary. How is something evil necessary? For example, if something is, let's say, government destroys. I'll ask you this, Adam. Will you argue government destroyed? If something is evil, it destroys, kills. If it's evil, right? What do you think? Yeah,
yeah,
sure, right?
it inflicts suffering upon something or someone,
Yes.
whether it's an individual, a collective, humanity, the planet.
That's a marvelous way to define evil. I'll say this. Would you define a black hole to be evil?
I would not define a black hole to be evil.
An asteroid?
No, I would not.
A lion?
None of
That's
these
my
things are
point.
introducing
Exact-
suffering. It's in their nature
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
attack.
If something is doing or inflicting this type of harm, and it is doing deliberately, not like nature, it's random, right? Some people would even say evil doesn't exist, or bad or good doesn't exist. It would be straight. These people are killing. These people are robbing. We all have to call the things by its name, right? But to the point, if something is evil, how will be to be necessary? A necessity, even in Austrian School of Economics, is something that is demanded. And something that is demanded, it is because it fulfills a good, a necessity, not an evil. You know what I mean? Not you won't demand something that harms you or that doesn't fulfill a satisfaction. You know what I mean? Or an end that you're even drugs. People that are drug addicts or people that want to kill themselves, they are trying to fulfill an end. In that end, they see benefit. They see a lucrative way, but lucrative ways are not always money. Lucrate and and stuff. It's not always money. You have priests. You have people that give to charity, and they don't necessarily need to, feel. They just get satisfaction. They just feel benefit out of it. So a government to be evil and to be necessarily, it's an oxymoron. It's an oxymoron of terms, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous in economical terms, in theoretical terms, in moral terms, in logical terms. God damn it! How you gonna say that something for me to be necessary is evil? Because it's necessary for me. The government, if government's necessary for me or for you, it means that we need to have something evil above us, and that's necessarily. That's a sad life, man. That's a sad life. That's a sad way to see life. And I've been in college. You have people from the realist school or thought, philosophy, ideology, whatever, and they believe that. They believe that. They say convincingly that that the state is necessarily because it's the greater good or the lesser evil. That's the other way that they don't say it. It's the lesser evil. And minarchist, I'm going to go straight. Anarchy, Utopia, and State by I forgot. Well, by whoever who wrote that book, I just forgot the name. It doesn't make sense. And well, we can go directly to Argentina in a moment and explain what are the walls, concrete walls, and behind those walls there are solid steel walls and another concrete wall, and that's one wall, and there's 3 or 5 or 6 or 10 walls in which Javier Millei will have to go run through them and break them in order to break them in order to fulfill that challenge. But yes, that's basically the some of the problems that I see in terms of government and going inside of it in terms of monarchy and the moral part of it. The moral part of it is basically that you're imposing the government of someone else using the state. You're using the suffrage, the vote, as a tool in order to put your ball, your will, not your will, or your the
To
measures that you want.
violate, you're using the state which is aggressive force, to violate and enforce some will on
Yes,
some unwilling, and
and
that
not everybody agrees. Not
well,
everybody agrees, even if it's
that is
Milei.
how it is. That people may consent to that, to that coercion, to that aggressive violence. People may not consent, and especially people may not consent when that aggressive violence is used illegitimately, as it so often is.
Yes, yeah, that's to the point that I wanted to make. The using of the as a mean the state to fulfill an end. It's using a gun to put. It's putting a gun into another people's head and say, "Look, you're gonna no." It's sending someone else to send someone else with a gun and put into someone else's head to say, "Look, that guy over there voted this guy over here, and he win. So right now he governs, and he sent me to tell you that now this is how the game plays. So
So,
whether you like
as
it
a
or not, I have
result,
the gun.
as a
Whether you
result,
like it
there's
or not, I have the gun.
as a result, there's no accountability. What the people will say is, I've had this happen to me. That person with the gun has said, I know this is unjust. I know you are being persecuted and I am the agent of enforcement. However, I have my orders. I have to do this, so we're gonna have to do work something out,
And
or else
Milei and Milei is part of that game.
Milei
At
now
the end,
sits at the head right now.
exactly. One of the
Uh,
moral parts of it, it's that one, Diego Giacomini, who was great friend of Javier Milei. They wrote books together. They have known together. They have known each other for a while now. Well, they separated each other the moment Javier Milei went inside the state, because there's all this is stuff that you make you think twice. Is it really worth it? One people like me will say you yes and no. Why? Because there's discussions like this being done. There's people like my uncles. They didn't know who the hell was Javier Millei. They didn't know what was Austrian School of Economics, Libertarian, Anarchy, State. The hell is that stuff? They don't really question it. But now they do. Now they started to research about it. They started to ask me because they know that I'm part of that stuff. A year ago, it was just my crazy ideas that I was a rebel, because I always been. It's normal. My uncles see to me a rebel, and I keep on rebel ideas. Well, it's whatever. It's the kid. But now, someone that talks to me believes in the ideas that I do and uses the flag that I define as beautiful and perfect, use it too and defines it itself. In fact, one of his dogs has the name of one of my teachers of one of the books that I have right here. So maybe I have to put attention on this stuff. And
I think
that's the net positive that we can see out of this by now. We will see now in 1 year, 6 months, 8 months. We'll see what happens.
Thank you, Juan. It's been your perspectives on libertarianism, analysis of Javier Milei's presidency, and insights into radical thought have been incredibly thought-provoking and enlightening. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this inaugural episode. We hope it sparked your curiosity and offered a deeper understanding of the principles of freedom and liberty that we hold dear, and as well some greater insight from a Latin American into the situation, kind of our hopes, our criticisms, our concerns, and ultimately analysis as part of
Yes.
a larger conversation. I'm certainly excited to see the future. I'm not. I don't trust politicians. I don't trust Milei. I don't trust the state at all. In
Yeah.
fact, I mistrust
I mean,
all of these
I would
institutions.
have liked to. I mean, this is something that we can do in one stream. This is in fact a video that could last perfectly 30, 40 minutes, in order to explain the state as it is armed right now in Argentina, because there are laws, there are specific parts of the state system in Argentina that prevent Javier Milei from going forward in some cases. Like if he wants to go forward, in example, lowering down state spent, government spent, he will have to go forward and change something that is called the coparticipation law. In Spanish is la ley de coparticipación argentina. It is a law in which ministers. It is also something called a special law. In Argentina, it is some type of law that doesn't go by the Senate or the government or the Senate per se, but it is done by senators in a way that they choose it. So they have to participate in a special assembly. They have to be in a majority. They have to all be in the same mood, and to the point that they are 18 ministers that they are getting from this coparticipation law. They are getting attacked. They're against their tag. They're getting a little bit of money here. They're getting a little bit of money here out of taxes, of course. Javier Millei, in order to change, for example, government spend, he will have to go and change this law. The problem with this law is first, government ministers and governors don't want to change this law, and the fact is that this law is unconstitutional. Listen to me. This law is unconstitutional. It's like having on the Magna Carta, on the Magna Carta in the UK,
Magna
or no,
Carta doesn't exist. It
no,
doesn't, it's not enforced. It's just a piece of paper. It's in an
I
archive.
mean, but
No,
it lives like as a base. To the
it
point,
doesn't
imagine
have
the
any
Constitution
impact
of
on
the United
laws. Yeah.
Imagine the Constitution of the United States to have an inconsistency to the point that there's a law that can't be changed, even though even though the Constitution says it is not permitted to have this law. So this co-participation law has been around for 25 years, but 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 in order to change it, you need to put all these crooks together, and Javier Milei doesn't have the advantage there. So he will go there to this wall, and he will say like, okay, what do I do now? I can't referendum this because this is a special law. I can neither go with these assholes and talk to them. So why do I do? In order to change, he will have to one point probably he will have to raise taxes. But I'll guess that if we want to go forward with this topic, we can research it forward and we can make like a little presentation. So we can present
We
people what is the our
definitely have
actual
you back.
situation, the actual situation of Argentina. I can translate the video of Diego Giacomini and present it forward because Argentina is a hell of a place, complex place, and every day everything new could be talked, that the blue dollar or these things. So yes, thank you for
Well,
having me. I would like to appreciate you. I'll really thank you for that. I've been wanting to talk about Javier Milei for a moment right now. It's been the sensation for a minute. So yeah, these discussions being made is the positive.
and
Us being noticed.
Milei, he's going to be the
Yes.
president for the next 4 years. Now, looking at
Yes.
Trump, he came in, promised a lot in 4 years, achieved what he could achieve with the state in deadlock against him, with all the attacks
Man,
against
you're
him.
making an example. That's golden.
He
That's
he
golden. Continue.
wanted another 4 years. Let's see how Trump happens. Let's see what Milei's able to do over these 4 years. Let's discuss it more. So thank you for coming on and sharing. Thank you all
Yes.
for listening. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions on the Liberty Rising podcast. We will be exploring people and ideas shaping the world of libertarianism. Thank you very much, Juan, for joining us today.
Viva la
Let's keep-
libertad, carajo.
Let's keep the spirit of liberty alive.
Yes. Bye.
Thank you,
Y que
everyone.
viva la libertad, carajo, no me jodas.